Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a fantastic recipe for the fall. It's my homemade sweet potato gnocchis with sage butter. I love this recipe because it has so many terrific flavors, and if you've never had a homemade gnocchi before, it is definitely worth the effort. They do take a little time, but none of it's hard, and if you have a house full of relatives around or friends that can help out, even better. Let me show you how to put it together. So we are first going to begin by baking our potatoes. So I like to use an equal portion of russet potatoes and sweet potatoes because the sweet potatoes are going to give you all the flavor, but the russet potatoes are going to give you the better texture. I've tried it where you do all sweet potato and they just end up too sticky and they don't have enough structure to them. So I do like to do half and half. So before they hit the oven, we're going to rub each one with a little bit of olive oil, and this will help the skins come off easily once they're baked and will prevent it from drying out and becoming too crackly. And then you also want to poke each one with a fork just all around the potato to allow that steam to escape as they bake. And then we're going to place them in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for anywhere from 50 minutes to an hour, just until they're nice and soft and tender. And you do want to flip them over every 20 minutes or so, just to make sure that they don't get too browned on one side, because they'll kind of flatten out and then kind of burn a bit, and it'll be hard to scrape out the flesh. Now, once they're still warm, we want to take our potatoes, peel off the skin, cut them into quarters. Then we're going to use this really fun contraption known as a ricer, which is a great thing to have on hand if you'd like to make mashed potatoes or really any potato dish, because you can put them in this ricer, squeeze the pressure of it, and you'll get these beautiful rice-sized bits of potato, which is going to allow our gnocchis to have a really nice light texture. And then once that's done, you're going to make a nice well in the center of your potatoes, and you're going to add an egg, a teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, and then I like to start with 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. And then what you want to do is just start to mix that up with a fork until a nice dough begins to form. And you're going to have 1/2 cup of flour resting on the side. So the recipe calls for 1.5 to 2 cups. I don't like to use the 2 cups straight away because the idea is to try to get away with the least amount of flour as possible so you don't end up with a tough gnocchi. So start there, and then once the dough starts to come together, take some of that remaining flour and start to mix it and incorporate it with the remaining flour just until you get a gnocchi dough that is not sticky. So those sweet potatoes will get a little sticky. So just keep adding flour until you can handle the dough without it sticking to you. Then stop. Don't add any more flour. Then you're gonna cut off like a tennis ball size bit of dough and roll it out into a nice long snake, about 18 inches long or so. And then using a bench scraper, or you could use a knife too, you're gonna cut your gnocchis into 1-inch pieces. See how easy that was? And at this stage, you have 2 ways to go. If you want to keep it real easy, you could leave your gnocchis just like this, transfer them to a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. It helps if it's been dusted with a little bit of flour. Or you can take this little gnocchi, put it on top of a fork, and roll it down the fork, and you'll see it'll create a really nice decorative surface. You could try that, and if you really like the look of it, keep going, but it does make it a little bit more time consuming. I also find that it makes the gnocchi a little bit more fragile, which when you then go to boil them, sometimes they have a tendency of falling apart. So really it's up to you. Sometimes it's just easier to just cut and go. So this dough freezes really well. I would recommend cutting it though and freezing the gnocchi as opposed to freezing the whole dough. It doesn't do that well in the fridge for some reason. I think what ends up happening is the dough starts to get a lot of condensation, and then you have to add more flour in order to get it to be pliable. So I find you've come this far, go ahead, cut all those gnocchis, put them on layered sheets of parchment on a big baking sheet, and then pop it in your freezer until they're frozen. At that point, you can either serve all of them, or you can portion them out and put them in little Ziploc bags for individual portions. Then when it comes time to serve, I like to get my sauce all ready to go, and it couldn't be easier. And for 2 people, you're going to use 3 tablespoons of butter. And once the butter gets nice and foamy, we're going to add some fresh sage leaves. I usually like to do anywhere from 5 to 6 per person, so 10 to 12 will do the trick. And then you can go ahead and season with a little salt and pepper too. And then we're just gonna let this butter simmer with the sage. And the sage is actually going to be getting nice and crispy while this is happening. And the butter is gonna start to brown a little bit. And that's what we want. We don't wanna take it to the point where it starts to burn. We just want it nice and browned because that's gonna create this beautiful nutty flavor. And when mixed with that earthiness of the sage, it is fantastic. And then take your sauce and just place it off the heat and let it rest there at room temperature while you boil the gnocchi. Now this is the best thing about homemade gnocchi. It takes like 2 to 3 minutes and it's done. Once it starts to rise up to the surface and float, time to take it out, it's done. Strain the gnocchi, get rid of all the water, and then place it in our skillet with the butter. And then just very gently, because these are delicate, cover those gnocchis with all of this beautiful sage butter. And then you can transfer it to a shallow bowl. And I like to garnish with a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. And you will see you will have one spectacular pasta dish on your hands. It's so delicious. I hope you guys give this one a try and let me know what you think. Subscribe for more quick and easy recipes, and I'll see you back here next week with another one. Until then, bye.